whenever I did that call, they waited until the third time. I'm going to do that again. Ooh. I'm Stephen Hill. I'm from Southwest Arkansas, not less than an hour away from Falk, Arkansas, where the very well-known and probably fairly famous Bigfoot has been known worldwide. I believe it's amazing how so many people have that on their bucket list to go visit the Monster Mart in Falk. And but that doesn't take me back to what got me started. I don't know. I always had an interest in it. I know in the 90s and the 2000s, stuff like that. I would see different things. They'll come on television from time to time talking about the Bigfoot. And most of what I saw, more than likely in the 80s and 90s, most of it was Pacific Northwest. And for me, I always had an interest, as I said, and anything that came on TV, Monster Quest probably really piqued my interest a little more than anything I'd seen prior to that. And then the Finding Bigfoot stuff came out. But for me, what really got it going, besides just the interest, was my oldest daughter had a sighting in 2008. Would have been in the spring of 2008, where we lived at the time, where she was looking through the blinds in her bedroom window one night, and she saw something come walking across the neighbor's yard and along the tree line, and it stopped behind the neighbor's mailbox, and the mailbox only came up to the creature's waist. It stopped for a few seconds, paused for just a little bit, and it turned around and it went back the exact same way that it came. And she came to mine and her mother's bedroom and told me, hey, come look at this. And of course, by the time I got to her bedroom, what was there was no longer. It was already gone. And that was kind of a curious thing for me. And it would have been I believe it would have been January of 2009 that I actually had a sighting myself. It was an evening time. I know it was really short days at that time, and I just come down a hill and around a hard turn to the right, and I could see something moving through the trees, and I wasn't exactly sure what I was seeing through the trees, and I thought, well, I'll get closer to it here in a minute, because I continued moving in the vehicle. And when it crossed the road, I still wasn't certain as to what I saw because of the way that it moved. And whenever I made it up to where it had crossed the road, I was thinking that I might get another chance to see it again and maybe identify it, but it was gone. And that right there really got me started. But at the same time, I was a skeptic for several years after that. I would go back and forth with it, thinking maybe that really was a Bigfoot. Maybe Bigfoot is real. And then I would just say no. I would see more evidence of it in the woods, of where they sleep or something like that. And that was always the thing that got me. And I was just back and forth for a long time. And for me, it wasn't until 2017 that I really began to reach out and find other people who'd had experiences and knew something about them.
What did they tell you when you did reach out?
For a while, I would just join Facebook groups. What I was really looking for was hoping to run across somebody that I knew. And that eventually happened. I ran across my partner, William Lunsford. We had been friends. We became friends in 1988. And we kind of just, our lives went different directions. There was nothing that either one of us had done. We just had different directions. William's a little bit older than I am. So that was part of it, And I reconnected with him, and then I finally went to a conference. I believe the first conference I went to was in 2017, And that was really interesting, really fascinating to see some of the evidence that was presented at the conference in Honobia, Oklahoma. It's one that I usually try to make that conference anyway. And
well, what did these people, again, I've interviewed William, very interesting man, lots and lots of experiences, that's for sure. What
yes.
did he and the others convey to you that helped you to come to terms with your skepticism?
Well, by the time I started reaching out, I had pretty well stopped being a skeptic. Is in I used to go out and do calls on my own, and in August of 2015, I quit doing calls because I had an answer a lot closer to me at 4:30 in the morning, 6-7 miles from the closest town, than what I was really wanting. And I didn't know what I said, and that kind of spooked me up, and I quit doing calls for 2 years.
Well,
But
give me
during
some
that time,
details about that. Give me some details about being out there in the woods, 6-7 miles away from everyone. What time of day was it? What time of night was it?
this was I had made it to the woods that morning in between 4 or a little after 4 maybe, and this would have been around 4:30 in the morning, and I was doing calls. And what I was actually doing, I guess here's the whole story. Was I had taken some of what I'd heard and some of what I'd seen on TV, and I was doing a call. And on a Monday, I had stirred up a pack of coyotes that were on a creek where we were working at, and it was impressive sounding, those coyotes. Whenever I did that call, they waited until the third time that I did the call before they actually responded up there. And it was probably only 5 or 6 coyotes, but it sounded like twice that many because they were so loud and they were fairly close. The sound carries really good in that area on the Arkansas-Oklahoma line. So the next morning I thought, well, that was fun yesterday morning, so I'm going to do that again. And I did the same call. On the next morning, that's when I got the answer that was really loud, and it basically mimicked the call that I did.
Can you do the call for me? Can you do that call so we know what it sounded like?
I don't know if I can do it. I'm inside, so it's basically. I'll tell you this. It's basically if you take you take a long whoop, you make it as high pitch as what you can, and you exaggerate it out as long as you can make it go. That was the call that I did.
Okay.
That was the call that I was doing in 2015. And since then, I've changed some things up. So, but that was the call that I did. And the coyotes would not respond to that until the third time I did. So,
well, were you out there specifically doing Bigfoot research, or was there another reason you were in the woods that early in the morning?
I was at work, so I had gone out early to go load trucks, and I thought, while I'm waiting on trucks to show up, I'm going to go ahead and have some fun. And I had more fun than I anticipated that morning. So.
About how far away do you think these Bigfoot were from you that call back?
I'm going to say they were, if they were 300 yards away, I think that would be probably stretching it. I think they might have been closer than that, between 200 and 300 yards. And they were up a creek. So this is a remote area, privately owned stuff. And in August, there wouldn't be anybody out there camping on that.
Sure.
So
there's no eye shine, no visible movement in the woods or anything like that, or eye shine or anything of that sort?
No, not at that time. Not at that time. I didn't. It was with that right there, it was just the vocalization in the coyotes, and then that response from something up the creek that was probably 300 or 400 yards away from the coyotes, from where they were, and closer to me than what the coyotes were. So, or I thought it was anyway. I mean, it was loud. What I got in response was loud, and I had wished. Of course, at that time, I didn't know anything about audio recorders or anything like that. So,
And that was before you
um,
had your encounter then in 2017, or saw something in
yeah, yeah,
2017?
yeah,
Tell
yeah,
me
yeah.
about the 2000s. Tell me about the 2017 incident.
Okay, I had a few in 2017. What what got me? It was probably in April of 2017. I'd gotten up early. It was I want to say it was. I want to say it was already getting. I don't know. I was up before the sun rose. I was up before 6 o'clock that morning. I decided I would go get gas, and on my way to the gas station where we get gas, drove by a field that had been recently converted from timber into pasture land. And they had left a couple of trees in the pasture on the far side of it that could be seen from the highway. And on that particular morning, whenever I got out there, I could see something standing up, and my first thought was, "Man, I don't remember a tree that big standing out there," because what I saw was I've always used the size comparison, probably a year and a half old heifer, the distance from the front leg to the back leg for the width of the shoulders of what I saw that morning. And I'm thinking that's a really tall tree stump that I'm looking at. And all this runs through your mind so fast. And there weren't any trees out there that big. There wasn't, they didn't have mature trees on the land. It was all really young timber that was cut off the place, and then it squatted down. So that was the other thing that gave it away. But it was probably 8 feet tall and over 4 feet wide at the shoulders. It's it was honestly, if anyone watches this later, if they can see the poster, that's what it looked like. That's that's not it, but that was in a different area. But it was very similar to that right there, very very wide, and I'm going to say at least 8 feet tall, at least.
And
And that
how far away were you from it?
125, 130 yards,
So
maybe.
you
I
could,
was in a vehicle going down the road, going
mhm.
down the highway when I saw that. And that one, the sheer size of that one caused me to lose sleep for a while because I went through just the actual what I saw. The first thing that I saw was not big. It was the top. It was on all fours. The top of its back was maybe the height of a picnic table. Not real big. It didn't have a snout or anything else, and it never looked at me when it crossed the road. It just sped across. And then seeing this one I'm describing now, or telling you about now, that's the only big one I've ever seen. I've never seen one bigger than that. Most of the rest of what I've seen have all been a lot smaller, you know, within human range, honestly.
So it was the
Uh,
sheer size of this thing that made you lose sleep, as you said.
yes.
Did it make you a little nervous about going back out in the woods or anything?
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was I didn't tell anybody that I'd seen this for over 3 months, the big one that I'm talking about now. And I didn't I didn't go into the woods to do any Bigfooting. I quit doing any of that. And the thing that helped me the most was I had some friends. They wanted to get a deer stand one night, and they asked me if I would go with them to get this deer stand out of the woods. I hadn't told them about this, and I was terrified. And I thought, I'm not going to be a coward. I'm going to go with them, and we'll see if something happens. And sure enough, we go to the woods. We get the deer stand. We actually saw some deer, and nothing happened. And that right there, that eased my mind that I wasn't what the Bigfoot was after, as far as far as being on the menu or something like that. It really gave me comfort. And since then, I've thought about it a lot, because the area where I've seen these is an area where I used to go hunting by myself. From the time that I was probably 11 or 12 years old, I go by myself. And I know that they've been here. I know they've been in the area for a long, long time, a lot longer than I've been alive. The reports of Bigfoot in Arkansas go back to the early 1800s. So
I'm sure they have been there. So many people have seen them down that way, and Oklahoma as well as Arkansas area, and then even down into Texas, all through that area, it seems very prominent. Do you know quite a few people who have also seen them?
Oh yes, yeah. It's we've talked about that before, and we could probably add you have some at the GCBRO. They had they recorded sightings. People, they would take reports, and they were real good at that at one time. Putting all that on a website. The BFRO, they have a page, and I'm sure a lot of other people do as well. But we could add a lot of reports that have never really gone public. Nobody really knows about them other than us, because we've talked to them. And some of the people I've talked to, they've had sightings. They don't want to go public with it. They're just not interested in it. They don't want their name told or anything else.
I can appreciate that. Yeah. So what have they told you? What were their encounters like?
I've had a few reports. One was a man that I've known all my life. I went to school with his youngest son. We played on baseball, basketball, stuff like that together as we were growing up. And he actually had a sighting. He was walking into some property that he had that joins one of the rivers around here. The river was too deep for him at the ford on the river, it was too deep for him to drive across it in his pickup truck. So he started just walking up the river to his property, is how he told me that. And as he got up the river, he could see somebody in the river. And he thought it was somebody out there fishing, is what he thought when he first saw him. And so he kept slipping through the woods. He realized that this person that he thought was fishing was not a person like me, like you and I. He said whenever it spotted him, the way he described it was that it bounded 3 times from the middle of the river, which was only mid-thigh to it, and it went straight up a bank and was gone. And the part of, he really wasn't sneaking up on it, because he said as noise as loud as it was down there in the river, that would have covered his noise he was making as he was slipping in. That and the fact that the ground was wet, so the leaves wouldn't have been crunchy either. But that was that. But he's a man he's honest. He's not going to tell you a lie. And but he doesn't want his name mentioned. I've had some others that have told me that. I've never gone public with their names. So a couple of guys that I know. Some of the people talk about the tree structures, and they say, well, you don't know that it was a Bigfoot that made it. Well, I don't know who else did it, to be honest with you. But no, I can't say that the Bigfoot did do it, because I don't have it on video, I guess. Or I haven't witnessed it.
Describe what those structures look like.
Most of the time, it's going to be a tree bow that's going to be pinned down to the ground. You'll find some other things as you. What I've discovered around here, whenever you get on what I would call one of the Bigfoot trails, is what I find is usually somewhere between as close together as 25 yards and usually about 100 yards apart, I would find something. And a lot of times it'll be a tree bow. Sometimes it'll be a Y stuck up high, probably 8 feet, 10 feet up in the air. Sometimes you can go through some things that actually look like a tunnel that you walk through. you'll have some stuff that'll be crossed up high, and it's pretty amazing to me because anybody, somebody who's been in the woods all their life and hunted all their life, they'll say they've never really seen any evidence or sign or anything. What I would almost guarantee is that at some point in time, they've walked right past some signs that are more than likely done by Bigfoot, and they just didn't know what they were looking at. Is what the problem was. That's what my problem was. I've looked at that stuff for years, didn't know what it was. I always thought it was, well, just the wind did this or whatever. Dead trees fell and pinned something down. And I never gave it a second thought until William and some others, kind of put me on the right path. So,
have you ever found footprints around those unusual structures?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wear a 14, and I've on some of that is actually an impression in the leaves, is what it was. But I could set my shoe down inside the print that was left. So to give people an idea of the size of what it was, we have found tracks. I know Williams found some that were 22 inches in the Falk area. We've had some in what we call our ground zero area that are 20, 18 to 20. The 18-inch track, it was about 8.5 wide. It's an 18-inch track. That's impressive. It's really impressive. I don't until you see a cast of something like that, it's really hard to wrap your mind around it. But we've seen that. Yeah, we found those, and I found them close to the structures, and I found them actually on these trails that I'm telling you about that exist. That if you get on those, you're going to find prints. You'll find impressions, especially if they've been through there in the past week or so.
Do they stay in that vicinity, do you think, all the time, or do they migrate around?
What I honestly believe is that they have a circuit, or I guess if somebody wants to call it a migration. I don't consider it a migration. What I believe is that they have an area, and they're constantly moving through the area. They might hold up in a place for a few days. I've actually seen them hold up longer than just a few days, though. It seems like in the springtime, we've got an area that they seem like they like to stay in. But most time a day or two, or they're just passing through. They have I don't know, there's kind of a counterclockwise sort of circle that they make.
Do you have any idea what the radius of that circle is?
The one around here, I can't guarantee you any of it, but the one around here, my guess is that it's probably going to be probably 7 miles from top to bottom, and it will probably be it'll probably be 5 or 6 east to west. And imagine everything in there is theirs. And I'm sure that I know that I'm pretty sure that at least some of them will move out of that area from different times. I believe during the summertime that they go to the river, but I can't guarantee. Like I said, I can't guarantee anything. So.
Well, sure. It's an elusive subject because there's so little in the way of, that physical proof and evidence that we have, but what we do have, we do have. So I understand that.
Right.
So a lot of people describe unusual phenomena around these characters like orbs and lights and things like that. Have you ever experienced anything like that out in the woods?
Yes. William and I, we've experienced that together with the orbs. We've had them at the area, the ground zero area. We've experienced that. I know there was one time my daughter and one of her friends was with us one night when we were seeing the orbs, and we were sitting there looking at it because it was just staying still in one spot. And I've always thought the size probably would have been somewhere between a baseball to a softball size. It was a white light. It didn't light up anything around it. And I always thought whenever it would blink out or go out, whatever would be the proper terminology for that, it kind of had a blue color to it right before it would disappear. And we were out there one night. The orb had been out there for I don't know how long, several minutes, just being still in that one spot. And I finally told William, said, I'm going to go ahead and get the camera out, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to record this. And by the time I crawl around the truck and I get the camera out, well, the orb had gone out. So, yeah, that's a really interesting thing. And I've had several people who've seen orbs and seen lights that we do have an odd game camera picture, but we don't know exactly what it is. So
maybe you could send that to me and I could put it with and let the audience decide what they think it might be.
Yeah, I can definitely send that to you. It's an interesting picture for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a camera picture, and there wasn't any brush or anything to be on, so we just can't say for sure what it is.
So do you know anyone who has ever experienced what they felt like was danger around one of these?
Yeah, I know a few people who've had some aggressive encounters. For me personally, I haven't, and I'm very glad that I haven't. But yeah, I know some people in Oklahoma. They've had some pretty aggressive encounters. Williams had a couple that were fairly aggressive with him. I don't know. I really don't know that many people who've really just had some horrifying experiences. I know they're out there, but I just haven't met them and talked to them personally.
Right, so. Exactly. So what do you think these Bigfoot is? What do you think they are?
They're very human-like. And I have some friends of mine will tell me that they're just another type of human. So, and we have some friends that they don't necessarily appreciate us calling them Bigfoot, but that's what they're most recognized as. It's Bigfoot or Sasquatch. For me, I don't know. I don't know. They're so human-like, but they're not us, and we're not them. But they're very, very human-like. As far as that, they can think. They're self-aware. I think some of them have a sense of humor, even. With sometimes it's they'll mess with you in certain ways. Sometimes things will come up missing and then return later. It's all kind of funny in a lot of ways with that. Sometimes I think they'll test you whenever you're in the woods. To me, the thing that gets my attention as fast as anything will be whenever I hear a real loud thump in the woods. It sounds like a bowling ball. It's been dropped from about 15 feet. You can imagine the thud that would have on the ground, and I've heard that a few times. And that right there is the thing. Whenever you think there's nothing around, there's nothing going on, nothing's going to happen, then you get that, and that always gives me chills. It's kind of a test to see whether or not I'm paying attention.
So what do you think they're doing that makes that sound?
A lot of times, the only thing I've always thought maybe they're just stomping their foot is what I thought. But because the size of some of the big ones, there's no telling what they can do. I mean, I know we have reports where people have seen where we know that hogs have been picked up and carried off. They weigh 250 pounds or 300 pounds. Some of the trees that we've seen that have been broke over, you'd have to have a great amount of strength to do that. And I know that at least I know for the most part that they're pretty heavy. I've found their footprints in bark piles before, where I've stood right beside it. At the time, I was over 300 pounds, and you couldn't even tell where I put my foot down. And they had sunk up a couple inches in it. Just
So they must be pretty heavy, pretty much
yes,
a lot of weight there
yeah. Hmm.
to leave that
Oh
footprint.
yeah. Hmm.
So what else can you tell me about Bigfoot? What else have you discovered and in your research and talking to people? What else can you think of?
Uh, they seem to function more like a family unit as far as I can tell. And I think a lot of times the little ones probably have a lot of freedom, but I don't believe that they ever get too far away from an adult. Probably more than likely mom. I've had them before when they've come around, and like I said, most of what I've seen has been pretty small, ranging somewhere between 5 and 7 feet. And I've had some sightings here where I live at, which would be on the pond, which would be a small, small pond, and all the Bigfoot that were there, they were all young juveniles. I've had there was another time whenever I had a couple that were probably within 65 steps of my house, and I finally spotted them, but I had taken random pictures around, and what I caught in one of the pictures that I took, you could see about half the face of the big one, and that big one, where that face was at beside that tree, that one probably would have had to been a 9 footer to for its head to be at the height that it was on the tree. I didn't get to see. I didn't even see. I didn't see the face. I didn't find it till later on when I was going through my pictures on that particular one. But the other one I did catch, and it was a juvenile. It would have been about the same height as me, with a gray looking face. But there was an adult not far away.
Do you go out camping, looking for these things?
I have gone camping before. I really don't do that a whole lot. To be honest, I haven't spent a whole lot of time this year Bigfooting. Just life has been pretty busy, and I just haven't had the time to go do it, which I need to. We're in the winter now, so I'm hoping in the next few months to be able to get out more and start doing this. And I'm sorry, you have to repeat your other question there.
Have you ever found any evidence in the snow talking about going out and researching in the winter?
Yeah, a little bit.
What
I
have
wished
you
I'd stayed.
found?
I found some prints, and I couldn't find where the prints continued on to. And I wished I had just stayed home that day.
Was it scary or was it, I mean, what was the reason that
Yeah,
you wish you'd stayed home?
it didn't make sense. So
Where the
that's
prints
why I
led?
just,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just a
They
confusing
just,
path.
they just, yeah, they seem to end. And that's the part that, oh man, I, I don't know. I suppose I could have got it in one of those smaller pine trees, but that could have been the case. Or maybe they jumped a long ways and I just couldn't locate it. But
How far did you track these prints before they just disappeared?
it was just a real short trackway, real short. It was 30 yards, and then I lost it. So,
About how many
and,
steps did you see? About how many footprints were in that 30 yards?
let's see, trying to add that up. My goodness, I'm really not that sure because they weren't real big. So that was one thing. Uh,
But it was just the fact that they totally ended.
yeah,
That was so bizarre.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing that got me. So,
Yeah, and
but I
that's
mean,
not the first time I've heard that.
yeah. I mean, it could have jumped sideways or something like that. Who knows? Could have gotten some of it. If it jumped sideways and maybe gotten some of the taller grass. I don't know, 30 yards or so. It would have been. They weren't that far apart. I mean, they were less than probably every 3 feet or so. You know, there would have been a track. So in that, so it would have been what 30 maybe at the most, or 20, 25 to 30 at the most. But it was, I don't know. As I said, I mean, they weren't real big.
Was there any
But
other evidence around there? Did you see anything else indicating a Bigfoot of any sort?
no, not really. And I kind of walked past where I thought it started, and both in both directions, and I just didn't see anything. It was just odd to me the way that it was. So, and
Yeah.
I really haven't shared that with people before either. So.
Well, you're not the first person I've heard say this. So, this is not all that uncommon. And different people have different theories as to why tracks end, but nonetheless, they do. So I understand. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. So, if you were going to give advice to someone going out and doing research, what would it be?
If you run across an area that has Bigfoot activity in it, continue going to the same area. That's the best advice I can give you. They'll become familiar with you, and sooner or later you'll get to have an encounter, a sighting, or something. I think that I believe that however they can do it, I believe that they can tell whether people have good or bad intentions. So, and if you don't have bad intentions and you continue going to the same spot, I think that would definitely be your best bet.
It's repetition. Eventually you'll run into something, or especially if it's an area that that someone has seen a Bigfoot, or there is some knowledge of Bigfoot in a certain area, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's a kind of look at the terrain and see if they could sustain themselves in there for a few days or not, or if it's just part of a travel route. Because I believe that's what a lot of things are. Is people may have the sighting, but it's within a travel route, and not necessarily what might be considered home, if you will.
So if they're making a stopover and staying in a place for a period of time, they'd be looking at water source, food resource of some sort, and some kind of like hidden shelter, so they don't get they aren't seen. Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because they're going to take care of the good ones. That's one thing I'm fairly certain of, is that they will take care of the good ones.
Yeah. So protected. That's what I've heard also. That a lot of the aggressive behavior is just defending against people in case because they have little ones somewhere close.
Right.
I mean, which is natural, normal.
Yes.
So yeah. The ones that you've seen and the others in your area, what color are they generally?
Most of what I've seen, they've been black. It's black and brown is what I've seen. It's but I know other people who've seen different colors. The black and the brown, also blonde, and also red. A friend of mine that passed away this year, one that he had seen, it was actually red in color. Had long wavy hair, kind of like an Irish setter, is what he compared it to, the hair color now. But it's actually a hot spot for William and I. So there've been multiple encounters and sightings in that particular area. So.
So is William still getting out? Are the two of you do you ever go out together and do some research or looking?
Yeah, I really need to get a hold of him. It's I haven't talked to him here in a few days. Need to get a hold of him. We should try to do something pretty soon. It's actually in December. We've had some things that turned out really good for us in December before. So we should probably try that again while we have the opportunity.
So what do you think makes December such a good month to go out and look?
Deer season ended. So I think that kind of eases some of the stress. The woods are not full of people with guns anymore. I think it gives them a chance to relax a little bit myself. they don't have to be on their toes quite as bad or as much.
Yeah, it has to be a little scary out there in the woods with the deer season, lots of guns going off and
Right.
deer going down left and right. So yeah, so
Yeah.
they probably do stay kind of silent during that period of time. Yeah, can imagine that's true. Well, is there anything else you'd like to conclude with?
Uh, it's a fun hobby. That's there are no experts in this, and I treat it as a hobby. And it's about the time you think you might get something figured out, you'll probably end up like me and figure out that wasn't right either.
That's probably true. It's the mystery that keeps driving us, but the one thing that we can't do is get all the answers, right?
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, yeah. That's for sure. Yeah, it's the our thoughts and ideas have changed, over the past few years of what we thought they were to where we're at now, and who knows where we may be in a few years from now. As
It just
far as our
keeps changing
yeah,
and growing.
yeah,
That's true. And
yeah.
a lot more researchers, it seems like, a lot more information getting out there to the public and a lot of people sharing their experiences. So that's helpful.
Yes, yeah, that's the thing. It's let the evidence you have speak for itself, and don't try to make it all fit in whatever box you have.